r/ask Reddit. What scientific fact freaks you right the duck out? Sharks existed before trees, or that you can hear the difference between hot and cold water. Dude, the difference between hot and cold water is my favorite. Why is everybody talking about the water? I wanna hear about these pre-tree sharks. I believe sharks evolved about 420 MIA in the Silurian period, and widespread trees were not until around 380 MIA toward the end of the Devonian period. There were plants when fish and sharks were evolving, but they were more mosses and small vascular plants, no large forests. The time scale for life on Earth is crazy. I live near some rock outcrops showing ripple marks from an ancient inland sea 1.6 or 1.4 billion years ago, before any real multicellular life had evolved. Pretty rad. They're the same as current sharks, though they may have been much larger at varying points, but basically teeth in front, propeller in the back. Every ducked-up creature on Earth, from octopi to tardigrade to spiders, all of them are genetically related to us in some way or another. Imagine the duckery that exists out in space that has no genetic relation to us at all. I have to admit, I find that whole Yellowstone supervolcano situation a bit unsettling. Could we excavate it to relieve the problem, or are we just ducked? To make things worse, Yellowstone is far from the only supervolcano on Earth. There are a bunch more that could also erupt, including one in a densely populated region in Italy. It's smaller than Yellowstone though, and it's also not about to erupt, hopefully. Black holes, concentrations of mass so dense as to be incompatible with the rest of the material universe, are pretty mind-bending. And universe-bending. Astronomer here. It's not that they're incompatible, just their mass is very concentrated. If the sun turned into a black hole right now, for example, that is, same mass but in a 4-mile radius, nothing would happen to our orbit. We would keep circling as we always have done and wouldn't get sucked in or anything like that. The lack of sunlight would be the killer though. Is the Hawking radiation negligible on this scale? Pretty much. Hawking radiation is only significant for extremely tiny black holes. A black hole with the mass of the sun would only radiate a tiny fraction of a watt. There exists on this planet a predator so perfect that it has not had to evolve in any major way for over 150 million years. It has existed in its current basic design for longer than there has been a human species. They don't even need to hunt. Just wait for prey to stupidly blunder into their path, then injects a venom that literally liquefies the internal organs. Duck you spiders. Also look up sharks, crocodiles, and some archaea, basically a bunch of really old primordial cells that still live in conditions similar to what Proto-Earth was like. Yeah, we're a fascinating phenomenon in evolution. Also makes an interesting case for the capacity for tool use and how powerful an evolutionary advantage that is. Sharks and spiders haven't changed much in hundreds of millions of years, and here's humanity, able to cheat evolution by just building something to do it. Our engineering can compress hundreds of thousands of years worth of evolution into a few afternoons worth of work. Nature's scary, but mankind cheats. We're the evolution that doesn't need evolution. We're the only evolutionary strain so good that we don't need to change to suit the environment. We changed entire environments to suit us. You're not naturally selecting me, nature. I'm unnaturally selecting you. Squid brains are shaped like donuts and the digestive tract goes through it, so if they eat too large stuff they get little brain damage. Brains are weird. The fact that they can be irregularly shaped but still form as one coherent unit despite large amounts of space existing between different parts of it is weird. Methodiking prions. Hunker down in Madagascar. Close ports and airports. Wait it out until China works on a cure. If it's Plague Inc., just evolve all animal cross-contamination. Maybe Madagascar will be spontaneously contaminated. If someone in the world sneezes, Madagascar closes themselves off. Fatal familial insomnia, CJD, mad cow disease and Kuru, just some of the diseases associated with prions, which affected the brain tissue. In summary, prions are a nightmare. There's a mind-controlling zombie fungus found in tropical ecosystems. Also in ants, so unless you're an ant you're fine. Isn't that fungus what The Last of Us is based on? Yes. Ophiocordyceps. Time is not a constant. Eli 5? Gravity changes time. The greater the gravity, the slower time flows. To add to that, this has been demonstrated experimentally. It's not just some weird idea. It's significant enough that GPS satellites have to take time dilation into account. And because time also slows down at higher velocities, they actually have to take two different types of time dilation into account, in opposite directions, no less. So GPS has to take from both general and special relativity in order to actually work. Stomach enzymes digest you when you die. As someone who suffers from acid reflux, it's not waiting until I die. There is an object that we cannot see but is so massive that the Earth and every other object in the universe we know about is being pulled towards it due to its immense gravitational force. It's called the Great Attractor. The T-Rex lived closer to the moon landing than it did to the Stegosaurus. So now there's dinosaurs on the moon? No wonder we haven't been back there. Sounds dangerous. Look up the timeline of the far future on Wikipedia. Seems kind of depressing that in trillions of years everything in the universe is gonna decay until only black holes are left, which will also very slowly decay until there's literally nothing left in the entire universe. Well, black holes aren't nothing. It's actually a whole lot of something. Like the universe ending and all existing matter giving each other a big tight hug. The Fermi paradox. The conditions to support life are extremely common in the universe, so radio silence can mean a few things. Most civilizations die out due to their own actions. Most civilizations are hiding due to a few that will preemptively attack anyone foolish enough to reveal their location. There exists an inhibitor race that destroys all civilizations that advance to a certain level. Physical limits on technology do not allow long-range travel or communication. We live under a net blocking outside communication and are being observed. We live in a simulation. None of those possibilities is comforting. Almost intelligent races eventually merge with the ice they create, can solve any solvable problem, predict what's happening in the universe without going anywhere, and have no resource issues that might imperil their existence. In short, they have no reason whatsoever to go anywhere or talk to anything as primitive as a genetic algorithm-based intelligence whose main concerns are survival and self-replication. We could also be the first most advanced within communication distance. Brain aneurysms. Like, you can be proactive about a lot of medical conditions that could kill you, but you can also just drop dead at random from a brain glitch. But hopefully the brain aware enough to send one last thought to you even if it is oops shit really ducked that one. Sorry, this is on me. It doesn't always kill you. My mother went through a day of basically being insensate before we got her to the hospital in time to have surgery. I think it leaked rather than burst. The lifelong short-term memory issues were a bummer though, and she's probably well on her way to getting Alzheimer's. Her twin brother, however, had a brainstem hemorrhage and basically went from zero to vegetable in an afternoon. I'm still kind of convinced that I may be ducked, though my doctor tells me it's fairly unlikely. Equals an oldie but a goodie. Since humans have the alimentary canal running between the mouth and the anus, humans are essentially donuts. In utero, the embryo begins as a ball of cells. The outer layer of the ball starts to pinch inwards, eventually forming the alimentary canal. The first opening of this tunnel eventually forms the anus, which means, at some point in our life cycle, human beings are nothing but disembodied a-holes, which kind of explains the entire human race to me. That I'm sleeping on top of millions of dust mites and their carcasses. Nice, right after I just took my pants off, tucked myself in, and got all cozy. I'm not smart enough for this thread. No shame in asking for a life 5, my good person. The idea of the heat death of the universe and the infinite nothing which will follow. To think that no matter how long the universe will have existed it will never compare to how long is will not exist. On average, your friends have more friends than you. My friends can't have more friends than me if I don't have friends in the first place. The Boots Void. Why the duck is there this million light year space of practically nothingness just doing out there in space? And if the proposed Eridanus super void turns out to be a thing, it'd dwarf the Boots Void. Dwarf. The fact that all stars will eventually die out and new ones will no longer be born. The universe and everything in it will be cold, dark, and dead. Earth will be a frozen ball of rock with dead, empty cities full of huge, useless buildings, empty parks, statues and art that will never be observed or appreciated again, and everything that's ever happened, from genocide and holocausts to technological breakthroughs and making the world a better place, will no longer matter. The sun is going to expand to a red giant and engulf the earth billions of years before stars stop being born in the universe. So Earth as a cold ball will never happen. We're going up in flames. The photon double slit experiment. You should look up something related to this called the Aharonov-Bohm effect. Essentially it is a double slit experiment with a solenoid in the middle. What makes it interesting is that inside the solenoid there is a magnetic field which would affect the electron and outside there isn't. However, the electron never interacts with the magnetic field but is still changed by it. Every living thing on Earth has an expiration date, as well as every non-living thing, albeit a much longer one. A black hole loses part of its mass due to Hawking radiation. This process is insanely slow. It will take the black hole 10,000 billion years to lose 0.0000001% of its mass. Blows my mind. To clarify, the speed at which a black hole will evaporate due to Hawking radiation is dependent on its mass. The speed is inversely proportional to its mass. A very large black hole will only emit enough energy to light a small lamp for a second every million or so years, while an extremely tiny black hole evaporates so quickly that it's basically a nuclear bomb. Interestingly enough, this does mean that in a far future, it is theoretically possible to make your own black hole with the ideal mass that it will output just enough energy to cover your needs. You will need to continuously feed the black hole though. This would be the most efficient way of generating energy, as it's a 100% efficient mass to energy conversion. Whenever I go to the West Coast, I become acutely aware that an earthquake can reduce my surroundings to colorful, on fire rubble in about 15 seconds. The Earth is warming up, whether humans are causing it or not. It's definitely a problem. But my politician said it wasn't. Why should I believe all these scientists? The sad thing is this is exactly how my dad thinks. He'll spout off all the science he wants when it agrees with him. But when I bring up climate change, who's paying for those studies? You have to look at who's funding them. And it's always these liberal groups. Sure, looking at funding is nice. But you really think someone out there has enough money to get 99% of the world's scientists to perpetuate a lie? If you fill the entire observable universe with paper and wrote in very small print, it wouldn't be anywhere near enough room to write Graham's number. If someone kicks you in the chest at the exact right moment in your cardiac rhythm, your heart will just stop. They don't even have to kick you hard enough to break your ribs. Your white blood cells can attack your own body, mistaking it for a foreign invader. This can happen in your eye and can leave you blind. Champagne corks kill about 24 people every year. If M theory is correct, there could be an entire alternate reality only a fraction of a millimeter away from us, but we can't never reach it because it's in a direction we can't go. Shrooms. You can almost taste it. The fact that dark energy and dark matter are the vast majority of the content of the universe, and yet we know so little about either. ALS and related motor neuron diseases. Nobody even has the foggiest hint of what the cause or trigger is. That means no treatment, no cure. Look at your hands. A significant percentage of the atoms that make up your hands and everything else in your body were forged in the heart of stars, which then exploded. We, as in our atoms, were not in the stars, so much as we were the stars themselves. We're all remnants of long dead stars. Stars like our sun are pretty much our grandchildren. We were stars, and then we were supernovas. It's funny to realize that our bodies were once pieces of something that overwhelmingly powerful. The movie Contagion. Link. YouTube.com link. The fact that it's actually a fairly realistic presentation of how a virus could spread throughout our planet and the efforts it takes for a cure to come about. Kind of a nutshell. but you get a virus that continent hops, infects people who can die within 48-72 hours, and it takes governments 4 months to even get to a test-worthy cure, which isn't meant for mass consumption at that time. The amount of death during that timeline is ridiculous, and in general, the fact that every human being on this planet could eventually be killed by something we can't even see but with a microscope is mind-bending. Then, to add to that, the idea of an asteroid or meteorite crashing into Earth, which happens to contain organic material from another planet that could have potentially supported some form of life, but that organic material is enough to contain a virus within our ecosystem and infects people is crazy. Or there are a handful of virus so hot only a few live versions exist in very locked down laboratories in multiple countries. I believe like smallpox. Granted, the United States I think has over 300 million cures for it if an outbreak were to spread, but it is still scary as shit that could somehow, someday, get released. Smells are particles, in this case, gases of things inside your butts on your nose. Not the biggest scientific fact, or even a scientific fact at all, but remember this every time you go to a public bathroom and smells poop. I read this fact a long time ago and indeed since then it is the first thing on my mind every single time I enter a bathroom. Also breathe with your nose not your mouth when you're in a stinky place because smelling something bad is infinitely better than getting particles of it on your ducking tongue, oh god. We're all one gamma ray burst away from not existing, and we wouldn't know because by the time the light from it hit us the earth would be vaporized. There one moment, gone the next. There are no solid objects. That chair you're sitting on, it's basically an electromagnetic dust field that your own electromagnetic dust field is pushing against. The description of the Chicxulub impact that Phil Platt gives in Death from the Skies is mind-boggling. The meteor itself was likely so large that the back end was still outside of the atmosphere when it hit. The crater was 200 miles across, 20 miles deep, and about 6,000 f. Basically, imagine a hole the size of Ohio, 3 times deeper than the Marianas Trench, and as hot as the surface of the sun. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content bruh. It's free and that's a great price.